Do we talk about menopause? Do we have menopause awareness, education? Do we have information available for women? On our intranets, are we having conversations about it? Are we bringing people in to talk about it so that we raise the awareness? A woman gets to her GP and says, I've got anxiety. They say, you're stressed. They say, you're overworked.
Yes.
You've got burnout.
Sure.
You're not sleeping properly.
Yes.
Take an anti-anxiety medication.
Sure.
Take a sleeping tablet.
Misdiagnosis.
Yeah, it is a misdiagnosis because we haven't gotten one step deeper to go and see what's actually happening here. Let's look at this patient from a full, holistic perspective of their whole body and all their systems.
So what happens? Let's go into the hot flash. So we're having this conversation and then all of a sudden your body just heats up. For how long?
It's generally short. You feel like a rising heat coming up your body and almost kind of unbearable. Some women have, intense sweating with it. Some people just feel like this dry heat.
So you will just sweat?
Yeah.
Right in front of me?
Yeah.
With this aircon?
Yeah.
Hello, I am Dr. Mandaj Flaro, and on this week's episode of the SuperLead Podcast series, we are joined by a powerful voice in leadership, well-being, and women's health, Dr. Ashika Pillay. She's a medical doctor, an executive coach, and a well-being and mindfulness teacher. And in this conversation, we unpack women in leadership with a deep dive on perimenopause and menopause. Dr. Ashika, welcome back to SuperLead Podcast.
Thank you. It's been great to be invited back. Love your new home.
Yes.
All looking very good.
Oh, thank you. The first time we had a conversation was Zoom, and I think it's much better now. I think in person. And the last time we spoke, we had a conversation on leadership and well-being, and you also told us about your journey. So we're gonna dive in today and kind of just talk about what has changed since the last time we spoke. I think you've added new areas of focus in your practice.
Yeah, no, thank you. The one thing about me is I'm always changing and evolving.
Lovely.
I've been on a kind of, I think, my own evolutionary journey for the last 15 years. And I've always been passionate about women's health.
Okay.
Especially my own journey in the later times of my own life, menopause and such.
Right.
And last year completed a fellowship and a board certification in functional medicine.
Right.
And I've currently just joined a clinical practice in Johannesburg, really focused on women's health, on particularly menopause care.
Right. I think we're going to go there. So why this focus on women's health, in particular menopause?
So I think, very much informed by myself and my own journey, but also that, as I get older and move forward in my journey, we've noticed many gaps in not just clinical care, but in communities, in the discussion, the conversation about women's leadership and health in total. So I'm really, really passionate about women's health. And, the real reason is after doing many circles, I've come to a place again where I feel, wow, I think I found my home.
Okay.
So really, I feel so passionate about it. And the women I deal with daily, they inspire me so much, and I learn so much even from my patients, my coaching clients, all of that. So that's actually it. I feel blessed in a way to have found this place for myself.
Sure. And so you sit in the intersection of medicine and leadership coaching, and you're a mindfulness teacher as well. Is menopause the most overlooked wellness challenge for women, or is there more?
I think women's health in general has been hugely overlooked, underserved, under-resourced from a financial perspective. And I don't want to go into all the nitty-gritty details, even about women's health research.
Right.
We've seen such big gaps even in that. What's happening currently is there's a tide of change, and we are starting to normalize this conversation, especially from a outside of South Africa perspective. I'm not hearing many voices currently in South Africa itself, but women's health across the ages are definitely underserved. And when we look at women in leadership, definitely the menopause conversation and chronic illness that comes from that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now, what is this menopause thing? This is now
Yes.
from a super ignorant
No.
perspective. If we don't know anything about menopause and we're starting from zero, you know, take us through that journey.
So, menopause is, in a way, I think, unfortunately defined as 1 year after a woman's last menstrual period.
Right.
So we've defined menopause in that way, where it's related to menstruation. However, what the science is showing is that menopause, so firstly, the average age of menopause is around 48 to about 51.8.
I love the specificity.
Yes.
This is when you know, Rolania, that here we've got a doctor in the studio.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So it's 48 to 51.2 or something.
Yeah, 51 point something.
Okay.
And what we see is definitely Asian populations, African populations, we experience menopause slightly earlier than European and Caucasian populations. However, the kicker here is that before menopause, which is that event, which is only retrospective, there's sometimes a 7 to 10 year period when women experience what's called the perimenopause, which is the time of transition of the body towards that end state or towards that state of menopause. And, from a leadership perspective, what we were saying earlier is if you think about somebody at 48, if you start to think that they're going into this state of transition or perimenopause 7 to 10 years before, you're looking at late 30s, early 40s, which is the time when our women leaders are moving into middle, senior, executive positions and often dealing with these transitions. And I hope we get into a little bit more about what do these transitions mean.
Let's go there now. So what happens during perimenopause and what happens at menopause? And I wonder what happens post-menopause.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So firstly, I want to honor you for opening up the conversation, which could be actually quite awkward in some situations.
Yeah, and we're here now.
And culturally,
Yeah.
sometimes stigma, but I think this is exactly where we need to be.
Sure.
Because if we want to foster performance, women's positions in the boardroom and below, we have to open the conversation. We have to normalize it. And maybe this is that step.
Yeah.
So what happens? So we used to think of menopause as a sexual transition, meaning a sex hormone transition, the ovaries and what happens there. But actually what we see, and fundamentally what's the gold nugget here, is that when estrogen starts to decline in the perimenopause period, the first and the most important place in our bodies where we experience this transition is in the brain.
Right.
So it's actually a neuroendocrine transition.
Right.
And there are 4 main important things that happen
please.
in the brain.
Yes, let's talk about that.
The first one is cognitive change. Women will complain about brain fog.
Sure.
Unable to think really clearly, word finding, forgetting certain things, which leads us to the second one, which is memory.
Right.
The third one is mood, anxiety, depression, etc. One of the first hormones to decline in menopause is actually progesterone,
Right.
which actually builds on that feeling of anxiety. Women go to a doctor and they go, well, I've got anxiety.
Sure.
They get an anti-anxiety pill,
Yes.
which leads me to the fourth one, which is massive in terms of well-being. I mean, how do you feel when you haven't had a good night's sleep?
Not good. Not good. A bit grumpy.
A bit grumpy.
Maybe Rulani might say a lot more grumpy, but yeah, not great.
Yeah. So sleep architecture is hugely disrupted in the perimenopause period, which of course just exacerbates those other three.
I see.
So a woman gets to her GP and says, I've got anxiety. They say, you're stressed.
Yes.
They say, you're overworked.
Yes.
You've got burnout.
Sure.
You're not sleeping properly.
Yes.
Take an anti-anxiety medication.
Sure.
Take a sleeping tablet. And we
It's
see...
a misdiagnosis.
It's, yeah, it is a misdiagnosis because we haven't gotten one step deeper to go and see what's actually happening here. Let's look at this patient from a full holistic perspective of their whole body and all their systems.
Right. So, so these things, is everyone, all women, going to go through that? Is this the pathway you go through this thing, no matter what?
So, 100% of women will go through menopause. That's for sure. The degree and the intensity of your symptoms will be different.
Right.
Depending on genetics, depending on actually what we've seen is low and middle socioeconomic communities have more intense hot flashes and the like. And oftentimes we've likened menopause, it's hot flashes.
Yes,
you know, just turn the aircon down. But actually there's a whole range of symptoms that are different syndromes that fit into this menopause picture. The neuroendocrine is one.
Yes. Sorry. Because you started the first thing is happens in the brain, and then the next one.
The next one is actually metabolic.
Okay.
So a woman will complain of, I've got this tire building. I don't know why. I've started to gain weight around my waist, but
You've got this tire.
yes.
I was a bit slow.
Okay.
So it's the tire around.
Yes.
Okay.
So you get visceral adiposity.
Okay.
So even in a man, you know, if you have increased fat around your waist, that's a measure of visceral adiposity. What is visceral adiposity?
Yes, please.
It is fat around your organs.
Sure. And that's not ideal.
That's not good because what that leads to eventually is insulin resistance. You've heard of this. A lot of wellness people are talking about, you know, insulin resistance, all of that. So when the metabolic change is the visceral fats, insulin resistance, which leads to downstream sugar metabolism abnormalities, which can lead to prediabetes, diabetes, and another impact of that is cholesterol.
Okay.
So that's the second syndrome, which is metabolic, inflammation, visceral adiposity, and the immune system can actually also start to act up.
So what happens? The body is not able to burn fat fast enough?
Yes, one of them. But actually, the physiology is quite deep in terms of how it impacts on the pancreas, how it impacts on the LDL receptors in the liver, and how that leads to increased cholesterol in the body. So the second one is metabolic and physiological. And actually, those are the things that we see. If you think about women in their 50s and 60s, a lot of them are on anti-diabetics, on statins, on all of those things, which may be related to this menopause transition. So that's the second one.
Okay. First one is in the brain. Second one, metabolic. A third one.
Third one is musculoskeletal.
Right.
So,
is there something that this menopause doesn't touch? Let's go.
You're asking the right questions.
Okay.
And, you know, not really, because there are estrogen receptors all over our bodies, from our head to our toes. And the symptoms are not just hot flashes. You'll see the most interesting, weird, in inverted commas, unusual symptoms. And it's only when you really dialed in to what are those that you can say, oh, that might be a low estrogen symptom. I mean, I'll give you a weird example. For example, ringing in your ears.
No way.
Yes, is one of the earlier signs of it actually impacts hearing as well. Because think about it, it's so essential for our bodies when we are in that reproductive age. Why would it suddenly disappear when we go into menopause and when the ovarian function, starts to decline? So musculoskeletal are muscle joints and pains.
Okay.
Interestingly, a lot of women in their late 40s, 50s are misdiagnosed with frozen shoulder, for example.
Frozen shoulder. Okay.
where you have decreased range of movement of your shoulder. It just feels like it's a little bit locked up, and that's because we have estrogen receptors in the capsule of the shoulder, together with other kind of muscle joint pains. And then the last one is, and together with musculoskeletal, of course, is very importantly, is a bone protection.
Okay.
Estrogen's the only kind of protective and preventative treatment for osteoporosis to prevent bone loss.
Okay. So menopause affects the mind,
The
metabolism,
body.
and the muscles,
Muscles and
and the
joints.
bones and the joints.
Yes.
Is there another?
The last one, which I'm going to leave, not in maybe too much of detail, is the genitourinary syndrome of menopause. So sexual function, bladder, all of those things.
They all get impacted.
They all get impacted. So it's really a multi-system impact on our bodies.
Now, is there anything we can do to, I don't know, maintain estrogen levels, as high as possible?
Well, yes. I mean, we've known for decades that menopause hormone treatment is the answer. Appropriately assessed and treated for women based on their individual profile.
Right.
So we supplement estrogen. There's different types of treatments. There's oral, there's transdermal, etc. But yes, the short answer is yes.
Right. So, but that's medical. Naturally, is the way women can delay the onset of menopause, or shorten it, or reduce the effects?
Well, when we treat it medically, then we dial down the symptoms.
Okay.
We dial down the symptoms first, and we also then dial down what's happening inside our bodies.
Okay.
We can actually show that we can help cholesterol metabolism. We can help insulin resistance. We can definitely help the brain fog, the memory, the sleep disturbance, all of those things. So absolutely, we currently have treatments for women in the perimenopause and menopause periods, all clinically, scientifically validated, guideline appropriate. But can you stop natural menopause? No.
Right. Now, how does a woman listening to us go, maybe I'm in perimenopause or menopause? Because these symptoms, they coincide with others, right? Like lack of sleep. I imagine, there might be a woman who's also has got a young children, so that lack of sleep can be associated with raising kids, or just the demands of work or stress, etc. How does one kind of isolate all the other normal factors and go, maybe I'm in the perimenopause or menopause?
So what's important is definitely what I call shared decision making with the patient.
Shared.
Yes.
All right.
So it's really about this conversation that we're having.
Okay.
It's about teasing out, what
I see.
might be contributory factors. It's about pattern recognition. And it's about saying, how do we work with this in a flexible way to look at what helps and what doesn't. But it also involves in-depth medical insight. It involves looking at those blood tests, looking at your symptoms, and working with the appropriate therapeutics to be able to say, okay, we can see absolutely you're stressed, you've got burnout at work, but actually, can that be related to a change, a fluctuation in what's happening inside your body? And we work with that individually, and that's what's important. It's not a one size fits all.
Sure.
It's really about looking at every woman individually and kind of tailoring our approach to that person.
Right. So now let's bring this to work and leadership, because just like everyone who works in an organization, women are also expected to perform at their peak, and then you overlay these physiological changes. So what now must happen at work?
I love this. You're listening so obviously deeply, and getting that there's something really something happening. And we actually call it, the perimenopause chaotic period,
Okay.
because that's what's happening.
So the perimenopause, that's the chaotic word.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And
because at menopause,
yes,
for a
yes.
fact. Right. So
because
let's
that
talk about-
perimenopause is that transition towards menopause, and it's not to say that everything is totally, smooth sailing after that, but definitely not as unpredictable
Sure.
in that phase of where things are like something's popping up and something else and something like women themselves don't even know about it. They're like experiencing, they're like, what's happening to me? Something's happening. Often misdiagnosed, go from doctor to doctor, have no understanding.
And then blaming the husband. In the process.
Let me not go there.
Is that one of the symptoms?
I may become politically incorrect.
I'll have a conversation with Thiru.
So, HRT is hormone replacement therapy.
Yeah.
And there's a joke that it goes husband replacement therapy. So that's why I said,
I think I want to go there.
no. Let me keep it clean.
Okay, husband replacement.
So be careful. Tread carefully. So, I think the main thing about looking at this at work is, firstly, when we think about it, not even just at work, even in our society, even in general conversation, it's like a bit of a taboo subject. It's like, oh no, let's not talk about that today. It's a bit awkward. But really, there are two elements for me around what happens at work. And I want us to layer this in two ways. The one is kind of general, what's happening at work in general. And the second one is what's happening with women in leadership.
All right.
There are, I believe, two layers there.
Let's do the general and then the leadership.
So in the general, what we want to look at is really people-orientated approaches. So what is the culture in this organization? Right. Do we talk about menopause? Do we have menopause awareness, education? Do we have information available for women? On our intranets, are we having conversations about it? Are we bringing people in to talk about it so that we raise the awareness of what's now acceptable to talk about in this?
Sure. Yeah, I haven't seen a lot of that.
Yes.
Yeah, and we don't have that page in our intranet also. Eh, Rolani? Yeah. So that's the first thing. We need to raise awareness in as many ways as we possibly can. All right, raise awareness. And then that's the general piece. And now on the women and leadership.
So that piece is, there's two rungs to that first piece. The one is raise awareness, raise training, raise the conversation, normalize, reduce stigma, reduce discrimination. And the second piece to that first layer is policy, structure,
right,
facilities. Okay. Do we have the right policy? Do we talk about this in terms of how does our environment support it? From a facilities perspective, depending on what your workload, what your workforce is doing. Do we have toilet facilities? Very practical things.
Okay.
If the temperature, the kind of general meme about menopause is, is the aircon, right?
Yeah.
But even that, it's a very material thing for a woman who's sitting in a boardroom suddenly, and she's just, having a hot flush and unable to manage that in a respectable, dignified way.
Right. So what happens? Let's go into the hot flash. So we're having this conversation, and then all of a sudden your body just heats up. For how long?
Depends. It's generally short. You feel like a rising heat coming up your body, and almost kind of unbearable. Some women have, intense sweating with it. Some people just feel like this dry heat.
So you will just sweat?
Yeah.
Right in front of me?
Yeah.
With this aircon?
Yeah. Because what's happening is estrogen, there's always an explanation. There's a physiological explanation. Estrogen, there's a very important thermoregulatory set point in your brain.
Okay.
And when estrogen goes down, just like here, if you regulated your aircon to a certain level, at a certain level, when it gets hotter, it's going to go up.
Yeah.
But with the thermoregulatory set point in the brain, we are much more sensitive. Women in the perimenopause are much more sensitive to fluctuations in the environmental, in the environment itself. So yes, you get that, and some women have it intensely. Like, I mean, at the peak of my own journey, I was like an hour, and I was like, I thought, I could like power up a power station, I feel like, at this point. So I'm really open about talking about it, because I really believe I should be that.
And you knew it was perimenopause?
I knew myself, because I was one of those unusual people who actually had something called premature ovarian insufficiency. So I went into menopause at 38.
No way.
Yes. And also with a lot of transition in my own life at that time. I'd left corporate. I'd had my last boy a year or two before, and I jumped into an MBA at Gibbs. Probably an identity crisis, if you ask me. So that's how it shows up. You really don't understand yourself anymore and the decisions you make. And that maybe leads us to that last segment of women in leadership.
Yes. Because I want to circle back to this decision piece.
Yes,
yeah, but go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I read an interesting article. I don't know if you came across it on LinkedIn the other day on CHRO, talking about burnout in our senior leadership women. Okay, and as I read this, I thought, wow, I mean, burnout, yes, but we know that if our hormones and if we're going through this transition, we already lose neurological and cognitive resilience. So is this that kind of perfect storm of women in senior leadership? And that article spoke about three things. It spoke about cognitive overload, so lots of responsibility, lots of decision making required, and women, of course, wanting to perform against those requirements of them. The second one he talked about was moral injury of women in that senior leadership, where your values, the values of an organization, don't align.
Sure.
And the last one was burnout is physiological as well, right? Even pure burnout, which is, anyone not in the perimenopause, it really is an impact on your body itself. Your body's taken a real hit from the high cortisol, high adrenaline levels. And when I looked at all of those three, I thought to myself, that's interesting, because a large percentage of those women may actually be going through this transition as well, together with increased responsibility, increased expectation, and a expectation for linear performance.
Of course. If not linear, non-linear.
And the punchline here is, in a male-dominated expectation world.
Sure.
So here you are, sitting at the boardroom, all things being equal. You and I on the same board. Your life experience of your body at this point in time is worlds apart from mine, sitting across you. And maybe, I'm dealing with lots, and maybe I'm at the peak of my career, and maybe I have so much more to give. And what's the support? What's the conversation that we're having? And it's not to say that it's a cop-out, for sure.
Okay. Jokingly, someone says, largely it's because women are a lot stronger than we are. We're just a weaker species. And you can still do all of that.
Exactly. An interesting study was done last year and written up in HBR. And what it said was that it did 63 qualitative interviews with women in senior leadership going through perimenopause. And exactly what you're saying is what some of those women, I believe, would have done, which is push through.
Sure. And is that the wrong approach?
Not necessarily. Yet think about how different their journeys would have been if they had the right support, if they had the right conversations, if they didn't feel alone and stigmatized. And what the article actually showed is what made those women, it was almost like that hero's journey that they took.
I see.
Which is, go to the depths of despair and rise like a phoenix, from the
Yes, yes.
ashes. And they did it. And actually, what the study said was that a lot of those women said that they became stronger for it. Because as much as we believe that estrogen has that impact on the brain, this is not neurodegenerative.
Good.
It's not to say that we are on this decline and it's like downhill from here.
Okay.
What the research has shown, very prominent research by a neurophysiologist with scans and all of that, is that it's not neurodegeneration, it's a neurological transition.
Okay.
And post this period, women in the menopause or in the post-menopause period are as cognitively on the same level as their age-matched male counterparts.
Okay, lovely. All right, that's encouraging. So now you spoke about people going through this perimenopause, and it's a chaotic space. If they go through that with the right level of support, what does that look like?
So, firstly, as you and I have just found out, that
mostly me just found out.
And think about that.
Yeah.
That people are unaware.
Sure.
So if you're unaware, there are hundreds, thousands of women that are also unaware of what's going on in their bodies. They panic. They don't understand their bodies anymore. When I see patients at the clinic, that's one of the things that when we map this out for them and we say, here's what's happening, you can almost see women sigh with relief. They're like,
wow, that's good.
Okay, so what's the light at the end of the tunnel? How do I do this? You don't have to do it alone. That's the support.
Beautiful.
The awareness of what's happening. That's why menopause education is important. Here are the symptoms. Here are the syndromes that's happening. And very importantly, I'm actually writing quite deeply about this at the moment.
I think you should publish as much as possible.
Really, is it not just it's not a midlife decline. It's not about women taking a step back and becoming invisible. Okay. And that's been a huge syndrome of the invisible woman, the woman shrinking into the shadows.
Just say more about that.
So a lot of the time, because of this transition, if you think about it, you don't understand your body anymore. What happens to you is you lose confidence. You think, oh, I can't remember this or that or whatever. So your confidence decreases. And we've shown in research, in studies, that there's something called the menopause penalty.
Menopause penalty.
Yes, which is where women have taken pay cuts. They've taken lower, roles at lower levels, or they've even left. I mean, I've had patients in my own practice that say, I sold my thriving business, and probably if I'd understood this better, I wouldn't have done that, because I just could not cope. I thought it was burnout. I thought it was, and then move into other roles. I have had women in C-suite say, this is what my boss expects. I just don't know if I can step up to it. Is this the right thing for me? And if imposter syndrome lives alive and well in most people, can you imagine?
It's just double the portion.
So what we want to see is, rather than this midlife decline, is the midlife reinvention.
Right. Good.
So you even sighing with relief. It's like, oh, thank you. There's light. So it's not doom and gloom. It's definitely not that. It's about us understanding the cyclicality of women's health, because we've also seen, the motherhood penalty in women. We know this, but we haven't just looked at that lifespan of women's health to go, well, not all is happy once all the kids are born. There's more waiting in the shadows for you.
Which is the menopause.
So, what we want is and what we have seen in what happens neurologically is that women move to a different level of wisdom.
Okay, good.
So you move into more intuition. You move more into understanding what boundaries are. You move into clarity about who you are, your roles, what are your boundaries. You also, research has shown that while in the initial phases, emotional regulation is an issue, we become even more empathetic and more
lovely.
wiser,
Good.
down the line. If you think about the wiser woman in kind of communities, etc., the matriarchs of society, what we want to see is a preservation of leadership capacity. Because at the end of the day, are we talking about women's health here? Are we talking about, yes, we are, but we're also talking about leadership capacity and sustainability.
Sure. Oh, wow. Any other practical things over and above sort of the medical, like just the general advice to women over and above awareness and getting tested and engaging a medical doctor? I wonder, is there something in the functional medicine space that might help?
Well, functional medicine is ideally practiced by a functional medicine practitioner, which is someone like me.
Yes. And just unpack what that is again.
So functional medicine actually looks more at root cause.
Okay.
It says, what is happening in this body? And instead of giving you just that treatment, can we go downstream to say, where might prevention sit? Where might kind of healing at a more nutraceutical, deeper layer of the body?
Okay.
So, for example, in a woman that starts to show derangements in her cholesterol, the question is this related to the hormone transition, or is this a organic cholesterol? So how do we go downstream and help that rather than just prescribing a pharmaceutical agent up front? Can we do something deeper?
Okay.
And it's not just, contained to menopause care. Functional medicine is broad. It's much more than menopause. There's a whole lot of, it's a whole speciality by itself.
Okay. And then what are some of the levers that we can sort of draw from?
I think for women in general, what's important is really education.
Okay.
If we understand ourselves better, and the books about menopause, perimenopause are just, they literally, I don't think there's enough ink to support them at this point. There's that much out there. There are podcasts on your wherever you get your podcasts. There's audiobooks. There's and that for me is the core. Education, understanding is the core, because when I understand that, I can then seek out the right caregiver for me.
Sure.
The bottom line is care and medical support is important.
Okay.
And that's where it fundamentally starts.
And not the replacement of the husbands.
No. Please don't quote me on that one. You're going to get a couple of comments like, why did you choose that lady?
When I talk about one of your other favorite conversations, and I wonder if that also still links to women leadership or applies broadly, which is mindfulness. So what is that, and can it help even someone like me?
Definitely. I mean, I think mindfulness has really been brought mainstream, which is amazing. And really, there's so much of research around it. We used to think it was a religious practice because it really originates in kind of Buddhist philosophy, but really brought to the West by somebody called John Kabat-Zinn, who started something called the Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction Clinic at the University of Massachusetts in the States. And since then, research has really abounded about how we can secularize mindfulness. But what is mindfulness?
Yes.
So mindfulness is really the capacity to become aware of ourselves, of our thoughts, of our emotions, without becoming enmeshed in them.
Okay, that's a big definition. Okay, being aware without being immersed in them.
Yes.
Right.
And the important thing about mindfulness is the attitude that we bring to it. So we say we're cultivating an attitude of gentleness, of non-judgment, and of kindness towards ourselves.
Sure.
Which are all very big statements.
They are. They are. And it's something we aspire to be kind to oneself.
Yes.
But probably don't quite practice it.
So, mindfulness and meditation are very closely linked. But mindfulness in action is really about how we bring presence to the present moment. How we bring our whole capacity to be here, to sit. I mean, right now, as you sit across me, what I can sense is you're being truly mindful in this moment.
Oh,
You,
good.
yes.
I'm a mindfulness practitioner.
There we go. So you're here, you're listening with deep intensity. You want to engage in what I'm saying without necessarily having an agenda and saying, oh no, I must ask you this. So because then we can sense a fractured presence from somebody, right? You know this. When somebody's fully listening to you, you know, this person's not here. You can see it in the eyes, even if they don't have their phones in front of you, of them. So it's really
On this one, I was talking to someone, and then I started replying I was talking on the phone, and then I started doing something, and this person is like, what are you doing now?
Yes, exactly.
I was gone.
Exactly.
Also, you can sense fractured attention.
Yes. You know it. You know it in your children. They know it in you. You know it in your spouse. You know it in your team. And you know it in your clients. And of course, executive attention is really difficult because people are just all over the place. The always on kind of culture is something that has taken away from us the jewels that can come from being fully present. Right. And fully present is not a goal. Because it's not possible to be 100% mindful all the time. I don't think it's possible.
Okay.
The way I define it is that, do you meditate?
That's a hard question.
So no.
I try.
You try.
I try to do walking meditation.
Perfect.
But.
So tell me what happens when you do walking meditation.
So first I'll go for a run, and then I'll kind of take the last the kilometer or so to sort of say, okay, let me slow down and thingy, and then just kind of be present, feel my feet touch the ground, slow down, kind of pay attention to my breath, be there somewhat, and then a thought comes, and then I'm like, oh, I must text this one, and then, but I don't have my phone, so I go back a little bit. So it's a bit of a ping pong kind of thing, but the idea is that kilometer or so, I'm trying some meditation.
Brilliant. You've just absolutely spot on.
Okay.
And I have another question for you, if I may.
I'm gonna sit on that side.
When you decided to walk mindfully, you had an intention.
Yes.
What was your intention?
To be mindful.
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah, because I think I've heard you talk about the power of this thing and kind of centering myself and just not live in the future or in the past, just be fully here.
And that is actually the practice. You've described the practice so beautifully.
Okay.
So the practice is, what is my intention in this moment? My intention in this moment is to walk mindfully. My intention in this moment is to sit and practice meditation. My intention in this moment to sit across my friend at a coffee shop and have a conversation.
I see.
And
yeah, keep going.
Carry
yes.
on.
It's lending. Yes, this intention piece.
So then we walk for 3 steps, maybe 4 steps or 5 or maybe 10 or maybe longer. And we focus on the breath, we focus on the feet on the floor, on the ground, how the surface is meeting our feet. And then, poof, what happens? Something steals you.
Yeah, and then I'm like, I'm supposed to send that document. Or I haven't replied to Rulani or this and that. And then I got carried away and then I go, I'm supposed to be working mindfully, come back and
we call that thought trains, because one thought leads to another. And before you know it, you're now 3 days into your diary, and you're now you don't even know whether you're sending a WhatsApp or an email on your phone. How do I know this? So the point is to notice that I've gone away. Notice I'm no longer at my place of walking.
I'm no longer at my place of original intent.
Correct.
Right.
And then to return.
Okay.
But not to return with, you've done it again. I'm such a bad mindfulness person. No, to return with gentleness, because this is what the mind does. The mind is random. Okay. The mind is going to You know, 1 minute you're sitting on the cushion, the next minute you're on checker 60, like thinking, do I have cheese in the fridge? You know what I mean? So this is the randomity of the mind.
I see.
So when we notice that we have abandoned our mission, our intention, we just return and we bring softness to that. Well, you just notice, well, interesting. I've decided to message Rulani in this moment rather than walk
gently.
And you'll walk gently for a little bit, and the same thing's going to happen.
Sure.
And this is the practice even as we speak to each other.
Okay. Why should one go through all of that? To what end should we
How do you
meditate?
feel when you're like all over the place?
Not great.
Right.
Okay. So to kind of get that energized feeling.
Do you feel fully in your power when you're standing there and you're like, okay, am I emailing? Am I WhatsApping? You know, can you be your best self?
No. Okay. So now to do this walking thing in the morning, does it help me to be more mindful throughout the rest of the day?
What it does is we start to build a muscle.
I see.
I heard you guys speaking earlier about the gym, and you're building a muscle, right?
Yes.
You're building strength.
Yes.
So when we start to practice these things consistently, we literally start to change the hardware of the brain.
Sure.
We've seen on scans that literally there are changes in the brain, the neuroplasticity of the brain.
When people consistently practice mindfulness.
Yes, correct. Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And there are many effects of the answer why. The one is physiological. What we definitely see is that we dampen down that sympathetic nervous system. We bring down cortisol levels. We feel better. We feel more in control. We're able to be effective because we're not trapped in that fear-based center of the brain. We then in the executive center, the prefrontal cortex, that's the clear thinking mind that can make decisions, that says, do this, that can plan. But if we're trapped there because I don't know if I'm WhatsApping or emailing, the CEO of your brain has gone offline. And that's actually the neurophysiology of stress. So when we are at our best selves, our physiology is balanced. From an emotional perspective, what we see is we have better emotional regulation.
Right.
Because we suddenly have spaciousness. We're not like, this happens and then I'm triggered and I react.
Oh, so you get less triggers. Okay. Now, in the moment, I'm supposed to be sort of interviewing you. I'm supposed to be fully present here. In my device, I get a text that sort of say, something that triggers me. Your son is not well at school.
Right.
How do I
return?
Yes.
So, there's that kind of, firstly, if your son is not well, I think you should.
Yeah. Let's say the son is not well, but
he's okay.
It's getting taken care of.
Yeah. So I don't want to have any mom saying, what is wrong with you? You should go. Or dads for that matter. So.
And then you end up with husband.
Exactly. You're on the exit strategy. So for me, it really is about how do we return and reset. The breath is a fantastic way for us to get that space.
Okay.
So if we take a deep breath in and out, we naturally kind of turn on the parasympathetic nervous system, the braking system of our bodies. We bring more oxygen flow to our brains, actually. Because normally we are in the state of breathing just from the upper parts of our chest. When we breathe deeply, we stimulate the diaphragm, we bring more oxygen flow, we get that vagus nerve back online, and suddenly we have a bit of mental clarity. Like, what am I supposed to do here? Instead of being now reactive, like, oh my gosh, what's happening? We're like, can we pause and reframe and reset and recalibrate what's the right and the appropriate action in this moment?
Sure. The breath. I want to derail because you mentioned oxygen. There's quite a lot of conversation about sort of this oxygen therapy, and you go to these centers, and they make you, kind of breathe.
Hyperbaric oxygen.
That one.
Yes.
Your thoughts?
I don't think, if it can't harm you, then try it. I mean, I haven't really read much detail or studies on it, I must be honest.
Yeah.
I know that a lot of practitioners use them, physiotherapists and other allied practitioners, etc. So, I mean, if it can't harm you, try it.
Try it.
See if even if it is a placebo effect. My view is we shouldn't shun anything. I'm open to all treatments, and maybe I need to be educated a little bit more about hyperbaric oxygen. I'm completely okay with that.
No, lovely. It was that breath
That side.
oxygen,
Okay.
and then I thought, okay,
Yes.
it kind of led to a question. As we draw it closer, you spoke about your work. If we can get a bit more detail, how do people find you? Where are you based? How could more and more women access the help that you provide?
Yeah, I think you can send me an email,
Okay.
and maybe we can put my email details
show
down on the show notes. That's
Yeah.
perfectly fine. I'm currently based in Woodmead at a functional medicine practice called Longiva, so you can find me there as well. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm quite kind of not prolific, but I mean, I love writing, so I put quite a bit of stuff there, so you can always email me or inbox me from there.
Excellent, excellent. And we ask our listeners, as you know this by now, we ask them this, there's a question here. Okay, no, I think we've covered it.
Okay.
We ask our listeners these two questions. One is give our listeners a challenge, and number two is to recommend a book, a resource, a website, or podcast, or anything.
So for menopause specifically, the Unpaused podcast by Mary.
Unpaused podcast.
Yes.
Fascinating.
Yes, fascinating, and really, really rich with evidence-based scientific information. And she, Mary Claire Haver, is the author, and she wrote the book, The New Menopause.
Okay.
And really, she interviews lots of key influences in the menopause space at the moment. So I'll leave it there, simple.
Lovely. Dr. Ashika, thank you so very much.
Pleasure.
I am super educated
I'm glad.
from this time that we spent together. Ladies and gentlemen, we had Dr. Ashika in studio.
Thank you.
Right
Thanks
here.
for having me. I
Thank you,
appreciate
thank you,
it.
thank you.